It's time to put the Australian medical system under the magnifying glass.
Hello guys. Basically I wanted to start a YouTube series because the purpose of this is that when I first came to Australia, there was not much guidance for me around the system and how to settle in and everything. So I've been in Australia the past 6 months. So I thought I'll give you guys a quick guide of how things work and how to come here and everything. So, but before we start, I would like to give a disclaimer that this is based on my experience over the past 6 months. Only take this as a guide. The big picture stuff probably will be similar to you guys, but the specifics may differ. So keep that in mind as well. A little bit background about me. I did my medical degree MBBS from Pakistan in Ayub Medical College, and then I gave IELTS exam, and then did PLAB 1 and then PLAB 2, and then I worked for 12 months in the UK, and then I came to Australia. So that is my background, and I came via the competent authority pathway. We'll get into the pathways a little bit later. Firstly, I wanted to discuss some the differences in between the UK and Australia. Now, I might be a little bit biased because I did grow up here and I do have an Australian passport. So take my thoughts and opinions with a pinch of salt. You might disagree with what I have to say, but these are just my views. So first of all, if we talk about the lifestyle, so I believe the lifestyle is quite intertwined for us doctors with the workload and the stress we feel at hospital. And obviously it's linked to our income and stuff like that. So when I worked in the NHS, it was the staffing levels were not good at all. So there were often times I was the only junior on the ward, only junior doctor with no registrars. The consultants would do a quick ward round and they would leave. So that was a norm which I found out in my hospital and sometimes in other hospitals as well. One particular department, there was no consultants 4 days a week, so it was only me and a registrar for 4 days a week. So that was stressful as well. So what I found is in Australia, the workload is better because the staffing here is better, and therefore they look after you as well.
In Australia, also found out that there's always a registrar above you, whether you're in the ward, and especially if you're on call. So that additional support that takes a lot of stress off your shoulders. And also, I found the registrars here could approach the consultants easily, especially in my hospital. Unlike in the UK, where the registrars couldn't approach the consults at all.
More emphasis on mental health. I do think the lifestyle here is better because of the work-life balance. You get fixed hours, so I work 76 hours every week. So and that is fixed, and then if we go above that overtime, I do get paid for that as well, as you did in England. But in England, I found that overtime was a lot more common than it is here. So I worked in medicine and psychiatry for the past 6 months, and on at least 90 to 95% of the time, in my experience, I didn't have to stay overtime. But keep in mind, this very hospital to hospital and city to city as well. Because I'm in a small hospital, that's just what I found. Also, the lifestyle differs in whichever city you are in. growing up in Australia, I found Melbourne and Sydney were a bit more faster paced than where I currently am in Brisbane. So you have to keep that in mind as well. Now, the other things that people talk about is the weather. Obviously, the weather I find in Australia is much better. The days are not as extreme. Like in the UK, you have very long summer days and very short winter days.
As compared to Australia, where in summer days, in Brisbane at least, sunrise around 3, 4 a.m. and then sunset around 7, 7:30, and winter times 5 a.m. to 5 p.m.
It is a little bit hotter here depending where you live. It's currently June here, so in Brisbane it's winter time in the late afternoon, and I'm outside, so it's not too bad. Normally in the winter time, talking about Brisbane, it's usually 5 degrees to 20 degrees. So in the morning, if you wake up early, it's around 5 degrees to 10 degrees, and in the afternoon you can go up to 18, 20 degrees. That's about the average here. In summertime, it could get above 30 degrees to 35 degrees, which is a little bit hot. But you also have to keep in mind that in the evening time, in summer, it's very pleasant here in Brisbane. It's 18 degrees, 20 degrees, 17 degrees, 21 degrees with slight breeze. So spending outdoors in the summer, in the evening and nighttime is very good. Now, the major question I've been asked ever since I moved here is the pay. So, with the pay, people ask me about savings. So I don't like to answer the question about savings because there's variability in everyone's circumstances. So say someone has a family or not, what kind of house they have, what kind of car they drive, holidays they go to, etc., etc. So I don't like to comment on how much savings anyone gets, and also in Australia, it very differs in which city you live. So if you live in Brisbane compared to Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, it's vastly different. Sydney is one of the most expensive cities in the world. I would compare it to London in the UK, while Perth is a lot more on the cheaper side. Melbourne and Brisbane a bit more in the middle. But in terms of pay, I would like to talk about Queensland in particular. This is the official Queensland website. L1 is your internship, last job, FI1, and that starts at 83,072 or $42 an hour um, before tax. So you have to keep in mind, if before tax, you're earning 3,211 per fortnight. Now it goes up every year. So L2 over here is known as JHO, or a junior house officer, or in England it's called an FY2, foundation year doctor, and that way you get 90,320. When I was in the UK, I was getting 33,000 pounds every year. So if that's $61,657. So if we compare the L2, the FY2 from Australia, Queensland specifically, I'm not commenting on Victoria, New South Wales, any other state. It's 90,320 compared to what I was getting in the UK, which is equivalent of 61,657 Australian dollars. So it's a significant difference. What I also like about the system here in Queensland specifically is that every year your pay does go up, even if you stay the same rank. So say if you don't want to go to training, or if you don't want to become a specialist or a consultant, your pay will go up every year. And in 29 years, you could be getting $262,977 $100. So you keep all of that in mind.
So a lot of people ask me about taxes in Australia as well. And I'm not an expert on tax and I'm not a accountant or anything. But my general observation was, and I may be wrong, was that taxes are a little bit lower in Australia, but the cost of living in Australia is a little bit higher than the UK. The other thing I wanted to touch upon was the tax earnings in Australia. So a lot of people that will come from the UK will probably come at the level of L3, which is your SHO, the Senior House Officer, or FY3, a Foundation Year 3 Doctor. And we can see that on the table that the Foundation Year 3 L3 Doctor has a per annum income of 96,973, and that works out to 3,717 a fortnight. Now, these statistics, which I'm pulling from the official Australian Tax Office table, so if you have fortnightly earnings of 3,718, that means you're going to be taxed $918. So approximately your take-home income would be 2,800 a fortnight. So multiply that by two, you're earning $5,600 a month as an SHO. So these graph here I pulled from the official Australian Bureau of Statistics website, and that shows that the also average person in Queensland is earning 160 dollars a week, and for an SHO before tax, and for an SHO that works out to 1858 a week. So that is above $100 above the state average. So a lot of people then ask me, is this income about 5,600 a month enough to survive on, and accommodation and food, etc. I don't like to go into details, as I said, as circumstances do differ, but the general answer is yes. You can very much survive on this salary. Um, I don't want to comment on accommodation because it differs from city to city, and even within a same city as well, the rentals can vary a lot depending on which suburb you live in. So I don't want to get into that. Obviously, in Australia, it's better if you have dual income, meaning that your partner earns as well. Um, but yeah, with this income, you can certainly survive. You may be able to save a little bit, but always obviously better if you have a dual income to survive here.
Now, how to come to Australia? So this is talking about the competent authority pathway. There are three pathways to come to Australia. One is the standard pathway, which is through the AMC exam. We can talk about that in another video. There's the specialist pathway that consultants in certain countries can come here as well. And then is the competent authority pathway, which is the pathway that I took. Now, the pathway is you have to secure an offer of employment, you get your degree verified, and then you work 12 months supervised under provisional registration, and then you get full registration afterwards, which is called general registration, and then you can apply for training. So coming to the categories of the competent authority pathway, category A is the UK. If you give the PLAB and then you work 12 months in the UK or do foundation year. Category B is similar, that if you studied in the UK and you did 12 months work there, or you did your FI1 there, the same, the Canadian exam, and then 12 months there, and then it continues with the US, New Zealand, Ireland, etc. I'll post all these links in the description as well. Specifically for me, I came to the category A, Competent Authority Part from the UK. So I gave PLAB 1 and 2, and then I worked 12 months supervised internship equivalent in the UK. Now, basically for that, you need proof from your employer, and also you have to include in the letter that it was approved practice setting. So that usually indicates an NHS hospital and not a private hospital, but don't quote me on that, but that's what the approved practice setting means in of my understanding anyway. You've done 1 year in the UK, and if you want to move to Australia, as I said earlier, you need a secure employment offer. Now, then there's a couple of ways you can do that. One is through the RMO campaign, which is currently open in Queensland till the 3rd of July. I can post a link of that in the description as well. The other way of doing it is, this probably applies all throughout Australia, is just email the medical workforce in different hospital with your resume and cover letter, ask if they require any other short of doctors or anything like that, and then they can take it from there. That's how I got my job as well. There's a Facebook group called F3 in Australia and New Zealand. I see a lot of job offers posted there. By job offers, I mean advertisements for jobs there. So that's how you secure an employment offer, either through to contacting hospitals directly, through their medical workforce, one, or you apply through the RMO campaign, talking specifically in Queensland. I don't know how it works in other states. Now, coming to the documentation of what you need to apply for provisional registration after you've got your offer employment. So you need to provide evidence of your eligibility for via the competent authority pathway. So that again means proof of your PLAB 1, proof of PLAB 2, and your proof of employment for 1 year. Remember, the letter needs to say that you work for 12 months full time, you were supervised, and it was an improved setting as well. These 4 things are very important in that letter. You may need to show English language skills, so I think I provided a proof of my IELTS exam, recency of practice as well. So since I came straight after working 1 year in the UK, I had recency of practice. The proof of identity, we can go through that later. You need to get your degree verified as well, which is this step here, AMC for your primary source verification. Now, I'm sure if you went to the UK, you must have done the EPIC to verify your degree. So you have to do this the same thing here. But to do that, you need to make a AMC portfolio, and that costs $600 as well, in addition to EPIC as well. That's your step 2 in your competent authority pathway journey. Coming back to what are the documents you need your medical internship, so that could be your FI1, FI2, or your house job if you're coming from Pakistan. You need a good standing certificate for everywhere you work. So in my case, I got one from PBMDC in Pakistan and GMC in England. You need to do your CV. You need to give that as well, and a criminal history check of places you've lived. So I gave for England and Pakistan both. And the employee details and supervised practice plan, we will go through that in a bit. That is what the hospital or your employer does as well. Pesky only involves if you want to do GP. It doesn't apply if you're coming to the hospital. Now, coming to English competency, on the APRA website, there's this document I can post in the link below as well. Is that if you are English as your primary language, this is for people who grew up in the UK and studied in UK. You just need to show that your secondary education was in a recognized country, that's the UK, and your tertiary qualification was as well. Or if you're coming from Pakistan like me, you need to show some tests. So an IELTS score of overall score of 7 and a minimum score of 7. So if you give PLAB, that should already be the case. OET, a minimum score of B in all um, modules in one sitting. So all of these requirements are here.
Documents need to be certified by a notary public, or there's someone from the Australian Embassy or a Trade Commission or Justice of Peace, and they need to be certified in a certain way, which I will put in the description below.
Now, if you talk about the fees for that, so applying for provisional registration is 430 Australian dollars as well. So keep that in mind.
If you add up the 430 for the application, the 600 for the AMC portfolio, and 175 for the criminal health check, that equates to $1,205. That does not include your Epic and Visa costs. Keep that in mind. So now you've just got an offer of employment and you have verified you did degree by Epic, and you have also you've got your documents, they're all certified. Now comes for the main thing, and that is the APRI-30 form. So it's actually a very annoying form. Well, I'll take you guys through it. It's a quick guide. Section A is just personal details, pretty straightforward. You keep going down. Your identity, so you need one document from A, B, and C, and D if you don't have an address on them. So for me, what I did was, I think I gave my Australian citizenship certificate in A, Australian passport in B, and Medicare card in C. But for you, it may be different depending on your circumstances. Your contact details or your residential address. So this is where you currently live. So principal place of work, this would be filled out by your employer. So part of this form is filled out by the hospital employer employing you. Your degree here, your internship here, your candidate number AMC. You'll get this when you get your Epic verified. You'll get an AMC candidate number. You put that here. You tick compensatory pathway here, which category you're coming from. You need peskeys generally for those who are going straight into GP, and if you're applying for a special recognition, I'm assuming both of these will be no if you're coming as an FY3 or an SHO here. So most of these will be no because you haven't worked in Australia before. So your most recent registration, most likely GMC, put that there. Your work history, so this is your CV also is to be attached. So the date of commencement, title is all given by the hospital. So I don't think you'll have any whole Medical Board of Australia registrations. So your criminal reference number is what you'll get once you apply for your criminal history check. That's normally done to two organizations. One's Fit to Work. There's another one I can't remember the name of. But once they're checked, you get a number, and the country you put that there. Then it comes to your English. So then I filled out my IELTS here. If you give OET, you can put that there as well. You need to attach your PLAB test. PLAB can also be used as a proof of English recency, as far as I'm aware. This can be filled out for the hospital or the section here. Or you can just say most likely you'll have know that there's been no issues with your registrations in the past at all. Same thing here, and then a lot of paperwork is signed, and then this section is done by the hospital. This section is done by the hospital, and then the sites where you'll be working on. This hospital signs here. You'll get a supervisor, they'll sign here, and then they sign here again, and this is the payment. So that's basically a rundown on the very annoying APRI-30 form. And then it's just an online upload with all your forms.
So you've submitted your documents. APRA can take a while to process them. I've submitted mine in November 2022, and I got my APRA in principle registration in January. So for some reason it took me my criminal checks took a while, so that was unfortunate. So after you get the in principle approval, then you need to get your full provisional registration. You're gonna get you need to go to the hospital or your employer and do some identification checks there. Then they send those forms to APRA, and in the next week or so you should get your full provisional registration. So guys, I think we'll end it here, and remember that this is just my experience of how I feel about the move from UK to Australia and the processes involved in doing that. So remember, you need to work 12 months on provisional registration before we can you need to remember, guys, we need to do 12 months on provisional registration, which is 47 weeks, and then we can apply for general registration, and then after that we can apply for training. One part also you can do is after you get your APRA in principle. Now people generally apply for the visa. Then the work visa, I didn't apply for a work visa because I already had an Australian passport, but from what I've heard it comes pretty quick, 1 to 2 weeks, but we'll make a separate video about that another time. So until next time, guys, bye bye.
So if you want to keep seeing the Australian medical system under the magnifying glass in terms of training, etc., please like, share, and subscribe for more.